At Mumbai Airport in India, everything is nonstop. People are saying goodbye, others are rushing to meet arrivals, and the whole place feels like it is moving at full speed. But in the middle of all that noise, a customs officer named Mala gets a serious tip from someone inside Kohinoor Airlines. According to the informant, a group of flight attendants has been smuggling gold bars through the airport. Mala does not waste time. She pulls in 3 crew members named Jasmine, Divya, and Geeta, and brings them in for questioning.
Gate number 82. Chalo.
Jasmine. Divya Rana. Geeta Sethi.
The moment they are taken aside, all 3 look shaken. They never expected to be accused of something this big, and they know that if this is proven, prison is absolutely on the table. Before we go any further, it helps to understand who these 3 women really are. First is Divya. She is smart, the kind of student who used to top her class. She grew up far from the capital, in a place where even the local airport was in rough shape. Ever since she was young, she dreamed of becoming a pilot, and one day landing a plane at the airport near her home. Her father even borrowed money to get her into the best flight school they could afford. Divya finishes her training, but there is one problem: pilot jobs do not come easily. With her family struggling financially, she ends up taking a job as a flight attendant instead. And because she cannot bear to break her parents' hearts, she lies and pretends she has been hired as a pilot. Then there is Geeta. She comes from a wealthy family, but after a serious fight with her younger sibling, she walks away from home and chooses to live on her own terms. Getting hired as a flight attendant is easy for her, but she still takes the work seriously. She is also Miss India, and she pushes herself hard, determined to prove she can stand on her own and support her life without relying on family privilege. And finally, Jasmine, the one everyone notices. Her childhood is messy. Her parents split up, and she ends up living with her grandfather, who does not have much. To survive, Jasmine uses her brains in the wrong ways. Back in school, she steals answer keys and sells them to classmates for cash. She is not reckless about it either. She is so calculated, she even manages to pay off the principal when her scheme is discovered. As an adult, Jasmine tries to go legit by starting a perfume business, but it quickly spirals. Orders pile up, deliveries fall behind, and the whole thing collapses. With nothing left, she becomes a flight attendant too. Now we are back in the interrogation room. Divya, Geeta, and Jasmine sit there while Mala keeps pushing, pressuring them to confess, making it clear that admitting the truth could be the only way to reduce the punishment. This is how their trouble begins. Welcome to Crew. And to understand why these 3 ended up in this position, we need to rewind to 6 months earlier, right after payday. People love to say flight attendants make great money, but the reality is very different here. Their salaries are small, and on top of that, their allowances are being cut because the airline is in financial trouble. Geeta is furious. She confronts their supervisor, Rajvanshi, because the paycheck is nowhere near what it should be. Morale drops fast and the crew starts working with barely any energy. Geeta, already someone who struggles with anxiety, becomes even more on edge. On every flight, she is constantly worried something will go wrong, especially with passengers who can be unpredictable. Meanwhile, Jasmine is watching a completely different world. She sees people online flashing wealth, buying luxury bags, posting perfect lives on Instagram, and it eats at her. Sometimes she just stands outside expensive boutiques, staring. Other times she takes photos with someone else's shopping bag, just to make it look like she has made it, even though it is all fake.
Rajvanshi ji.
Not long after, the flight attendants are suddenly shocked when Rajvanshi collapses without warning. In the chaos that follows, Divya is asked to give him mouth-to-mouth, but she instantly feels sick at the thought of having to do it. Geeta steps in and tries to perform CPR, and that is when everything takes a disturbing turn. As she presses down, she realizes Rajvanshi is hiding something under his clothes.
CPR! CPR!
I think Rajvanshi has deboarded this plane.
कोई बेचारा यहाँ
It turns out to be gold bars. In that moment, all three of them are left stunned, unable to understand what they have just uncovered. That is when a dangerous idea crosses Jasmine's mind. She starts thinking about taking the gold. To her, this feels like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. No one would know, and whatever Rajvanshi was doing was clearly illegal anyway. She tries to convince Divya and Geeta that the gold could be seen as compensation for the unfair salaries they have been living with, but fear quickly takes over. Divya and Geeta know that if they are caught, their lives would be over. Geeta firmly shuts the idea down and warns Jasmine not to touch the gold.
Hey! हाथ मत लगा.
Soon after, Rajvanshi's body is secured along with the gold he was carrying. There are 12 bars in total, each weighing 1 kilogram. During the chaos, Divya unexpectedly spots someone from her past. It is Jaivir, a former schoolmate who is now the head of airport customs. Seeing him brings back memories of their teenage years when they were close and carefree.
You know I'm odd.
Jaivir approaches her, clearly still holding on to those old feelings, and asks for her phone number, hoping they can reconnect. Later, Geeta tells her husband about the shocking discovery. She cannot understand how Rajvanshi was still willing to smuggle 12 gold bars even when he was already on the brink of death. Her husband offers a simple explanation. When enough money's involved, very few people are able to resist temptation. Meanwhile, Jasmine heads home since she is not scheduled to fly anymore that day. The moment she arrives, her landlord confronts her about unpaid rent. She is already 2 months behind. Without much choice, Jasmine pulls out a luxury watch she had stolen from a passenger and hands it over to settle the debt. At the same time, Divya returns home to even worse news. She learns that her parents have sold their car. The reason hits her hard. The car was sold to help pay off the debt from her flight school days, and the guilt weighs heavily on her. The next day, Geeta goes to the market and runs into an old colleague named Sudha. It has been a long time since they last saw each other, and Sudha ends up opening up about problems in her marriage. Elsewhere, Divya is reading the newspaper when she sees headlines about her airline facing bankruptcy. Alarmed, she turns on the news and watches the airline's owner, Vijay, being interviewed about the company's collapsing finances. Worried that everything might fall apart at any moment, Geeta decides to confront the airline directly. She goes to see the management, desperate for answers. As always, her anxiety takes over. She takes her calming medication and even imagines throwing herself in front of the manager's car. Eventually, Geeta manages to speak face-to-face with the airline's manager, a man named Manoj. She asks him outright if the company is really on the verge of bankruptcy. Manoj brushes it off as nothing more than a rumor. He insists that the second-best airline in Asia could never fail. But as he keeps talking, he slips up. His words make it clear that the airline is, in fact, heading straight toward collapse.
जी कितने साल हो गए सुधा भाभी को और आपको जानते हैं
बैंकरप्ट है माता रानी की कसम बैंकरप्ट है
That night, Geeta suggests to Divya that they take whatever they can from the storage room, just in case they end up with no severance pay at all. Before panic fully takes over, Jasmine shows up and calms them down. Geeta and Divya finally let everything out, talking about how trapped they feel and how lost they would be if the airline really goes bankrupt. Seeing how desperate her friends are, Jasmine decides to reveal something she has been hiding. She explains that Rajvanshi has actually been smuggling gold for 4 years. To prove it, she shows them Rajvanshi's phone, which she secretly took on the plane to figure out who he was working with. From the messages, it becomes clear that Rajvanshi always contacted the same number before every flight. Without hesitation, Geeta takes the phone and calls that number. That is when the truth comes out. Rajvanshi was taking orders from Manoj all along. Determined to get answers, the three of them confront Manoj about the gold smuggling. At first, he plays innocent and pretends he has no idea what they're talking about. But Jasmine presents the phone as proof, showing the messages between him and Rajvanshi. With nowhere left to hide, they strike a deal. They agree not to report Manoj's crimes as long as he includes them in the operation. Manoj laughs it off at first, convinced they will never be able to handle the work. But his confidence disappears fast when Divya suddenly grabs him from behind and threatens him. Left with no choice, Manoj gives them his office address and tells them to come back the next day. The following day, they arrive at Manoj's office. And without any hesitation, he lays out 12 gold bars in front of them. They are completely stunned, barely able to look away. Manoj explains that once they reach their destination airport, They must head straight to Terminal 2, where he already has a trusted customs officer waiting. After that, they regroup at Divya's house, unsure what to do with so much gold. Jasmine suggests copying exactly what Rajvanshi did, since he managed to get away with it for years. But with customs and police now alert, they know they need a smarter plan. As Jasmine snacks on some chocolate while thinking, an idea suddenly clicks.
के ना हल्की
Instead of moving the gold as bars, they could melt it down. Soon they are imagining a way to disguise the gold by coating it in chocolate so it can pass unnoticed. A few days later, the plan becomes reality. They melt all the gold and reshape it into small round pieces that look just like chocolate candy. Each piece is coated and sealed inside packaging, mixed in with real chocolate to make it even safer.
असली चॉकलेट
Their first run is a success. Manoj pays them an enormous amount, more money than they have ever seen. From there, they continue smuggling gold, and their income multiplies fast, finally giving them the lives they were never able to afford before. With her share, Divya buys a car and sends money home to support her parents. Jasmine finally gets the luxury bags she always dreamed of and starts living the influencer lifestyle online. And Gata uses her money to help her sister-in-law land a job, even if it means bribing the right people behind the scenes. After a while, trouble starts closing in as Mala begins to notice something off about the three of them. When word spreads that Mala plans to inspect every crew member's luggage, Gita completely panics. Divya is so nervous she starts sweating as she checks Gita's suitcase herself, and her heart nearly stops when she finds chocolate inside. Desperate to avoid being exposed, Jasmine spots Jaivir nearby and quickly signals Divya to get his attention. Because Jaivir still has feelings for Divya, he steps in and asks Mala to stop the inspection, allowing them to board the plane without further checks. The next day, Divya goes out to dinner with Jaivir, reminiscing about their school days. What starts as a casual reunion quickly turns into flirtation, and it becomes clear that Jaivir's feelings for her never really faded. A week later, the staff finally receives their salaries. But aside from Divya, Jasmine, and Gita, most of the crew is deeply unhappy with how little they are paid. One flight attendant named Kamal shares that she has no choice but to move her child from a private school to a public one because she can no longer afford the fees. Gita tries to calm everyone down, assuring them that things will return to normal and that the company will recover. One night, Jasmine, Gita, and Divya go all out at a club to celebrate Jasmine's birthday. They spend recklessly, drink far too much, and end the night completely wasted. Jasmine even orders an oversized bottle of champagne, determined to enjoy every last drop. On the way home, they unexpectedly cross paths with Komal. She is left speechless by the sight of them partying so lavishly, and all she can do is stand there, burning with jealousy. Back in the present, Divya, Gita, and Jasmine are still being interrogated by Mala. The situation escalates when a senior airport official confronts Jaivir, furious that the plane has been grounded for 6 hours because of the investigation. Jaivir tries to calm him down, insisting that the informant's tip about gold smuggling needs to be proven. He also refuses to believe Divya is involved, even going so far as to stake his own reputation on it. Not long after, airport staff report that no gold has been found anywhere on the plane. Every possible spot has been searched, from the restrooms to the trash bins. Refusing to give up, Mala orders all the trash to be brought out. After digging through it, they finally discover chocolate that strongly appears to be hiding the smuggled gold. Mala returns to the interrogation room with the chocolate in hand, and without hesitation, eats it right in front of the 3 flight attendants. They watch anxiously as she takes each bite, their nerves stretched to the limit.
अब हम घर जा सकते हैं?
To their immense relief, it turns out to be real chocolate. The story then jumps back to 6 hours before the plane was supposed to land. Divya had been warned by Jai that the aircraft would turn back for inspection after an informant reported gold smuggling. Panic set in immediately. Thinking fast, they hide all the gold on the ceiling of the aircraft cabin. In the end, Mala's furious. She was convinced she was right and even argued with the airport chief after receiving information from someone who knew the women well. But without solid proof, she has no choice but to release all three of them. Afterwards, Divya, Geeta, Jasmine, and Manoj can only stand and watch as the plane, carrying the gold, takes off without them. On the drive home, tensions explode. Divya is furious with Jasmine for constantly posting luxury items on Instagram, knowing it could draw suspicion. Jasmine fires back, mocking Divya for lying to her parents. The argument grows so uncomfortable that Geeta finally demands they get out of the car.
BMW की फोटो डाल रखी है इसने।
शैंपेन की पड़ी है. Please, Rajvan, she deserves an award.
Enough. बस get out!
A few days later, the tension between Divya and Jasmine grows so bad that they stop speaking to each other entirely. Around the same time, Divya starts suspecting that the insider who reported them might be Kamal, especially since they had run into her on the way home from the club. A week passes, and each of the three women faces her own crisis. Divya has it the worst. Her younger brother finds out the truth that she is not actually a pilot. The guilt she has been carrying finally overwhelms her, knowing she has been lying to her parents all this time. Yet she is terrified that telling them the truth could seriously harm their health. Her brother reminds her that living honestly is the only way she can truly move forward. Then shocking news breaks. Airport officials have discovered gold hidden inside the aircraft cabin. When Javier sees the report, he is filled with regret for not trusting Mala. He is also devastated, realizing that Divya, the woman he loves, really did cross that line. When Divya approaches him to explain what happened, Javier can barely recognize her anymore. To him, she is no longer the same person he once knew. Deeply hurt, he cuts her out of his life completely. At the same time, Jasmine tries to start fresh by launching a new business. But her hope is crushed when her grandfather suddenly passes away. The loss hits her hard because he was the only family she had left. Strangely, the weight of everything they are going through ends up bringing Jasmine and Divya back together, and the two slowly reconcile. The very next day, devastating news spreads fast. Kohinoor Airlines is officially declared bankrupt after failing to pay off its debts. Divya, Geeta, and Jasmine rush to the office to calm the other flight attendants. Instead of relief, they are met with anger. Kamal lashes out at them, accusing them of pretending to care. In a burst of emotion, Jasmine questions how she could possibly care about someone who turned them into customs. Kamal immediately defends herself, insisting that she was not the one who reported them.
यहाँ क्या कर रही है?
कोमल
City में map तो रहने दो. And of course, continue your champagne party.
Not long after, Jasmine starts feeling guilty for accusing Kamal without proof. Divya suddenly remembers something Mala had said before, that the informant was someone who had worked closely with them and knew them very well. That is when Geeta puts the pieces together. She realizes the informant must be Sudha, who once confided that Manoj abandoned her after she quit being a flight attendant. They soon confirm the truth. Sudha is Manoj's ex-wife. Without wasting time, they head to the market to find her. Just as they expected, Sudha is there, meeting with Mala. Once Mala leaves and the moment feels safe, they follow Sudha.
साली ये तो मित्तल की भी मां निकली.
In the end, they corner her and force the truth out. Overcome with emotion, Sudha breaks down, driven by years of resentment toward Manoj. He had stopped supporting her, divorced her without warning, and on top of that, he now has 4 wives. Sudha finally reveals the biggest secret of all. Manoj was never the real mastermind. He was only taking orders. The gold had always belonged to Vijay.
चेयरमैन साहब
The realization hits hard. For all this time, they had been helping someone who paid them unfairly, while the true owner walked away. Now the airline is bankrupt and Vijay has vanished without a trace. A few days later, Divya gathers Jasmine and Geeta to lay out a new plan. This time, the target is clear. They are going after the gold that belongs to Vijay. To Divya, this is not just another theft. It is payback for everything he put them through. Jasmine is immediately uneasy. Vijay is powerful, well-connected, and stealing from someone like him feels almost impossible. Geeta, on the other hand, backs Divya without hesitation. She believes the risk is worth taking. Overwhelmed by doubt, Jasmine briefly walks away from them, convinced the plan will never work. Trying to clear her head, Jasmine remembers something her grandfather once told her, that no matter what happens, she needs people who truly care about her. That thought pulls her back. She returns to Divya and Geeta and agrees to join the plan. To help fund the operation, she even sells her luxury bags.
And how are you planning to fund this little project of yours? पैसे बनाने के लिए, पैसे crime.
A week later, they arrive in a place called Alberg, where Vijay is currently staying. Without drawing attention, they trail Manoj, who has just completed another gold smuggling run. From a distance, they spot several suitcases being carried by Vijay's men and quickly assume they are packed with gold bars. They follow Manoj into an extremely luxurious hotel. The place is so upscale that the prices at the restaurant nearly give Geeta a heart attack.
Ketu, sit down. Waiter?
After waiting for the right moment, they finally see Vijay hand a room access card to Manoj. That is when they learn the reason for all the activity. Vijay's daughter's getting married at the hotel. To Jasmine, this feels like the perfect opportunity. Geeta suddenly remembers her sister-in-law, who now works at a high-end restaurant in Alberg. As it turns out, she works at the very same hotel where Vijay is staying. To smooth things out, Geeta pulls her into the plan and uses bribes to get insiders on their side, allowing them to pose as hotel staff.
समझो ये होटल का एचआर मैनेजर मैं ही हूँ मसाज लॉन्ड्री सिक्योरिटी गार्ड शेफ
Housekeeping.
2000
Rupees.
Dollars!
We have 540 total guests.
The next day, they regroup and refine the plan. Getting into Vijay's room will not be easy. The path is covered by more than 100 security cameras. That is when Divya remembers her brother's hacking skills. She calls him immediately and asks for help breaking into the camera system and distracting the guards.
कर देना यार प्लीज मेरे लिए प्लीज 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 प्लीज
वो सब मैंने छोड़ दिया.
चिड्डू! Hello?
3 days later, they begin mapping out every detail of the route they will need to take to steal all the gold. Divya secretly disguises herself as a cleaner to photograph a guard's access card. The idea is for her brother to later contact that guard through a dating app to keep him distracted. At the same time, Geeta learns that the only way to enter Vijay's room is by using a guest's access card. Once she manages to get inside, she carefully studies the layout, memorizing every detail so they will not lose their way when the time comes. That night, the three of them regroup, and Geeta lays out everything she observed during her surveillance. Jasmine believes she could steal the access card if she had just 2 minutes alone with Vijay. But Geeta quickly shuts that idea down, knowing Vijay is never without his bodyguards. With no other option, they decide to approach Manoj at the hotel and invite him to help steal Vijay's gold.
Radhe Radhe Mittalji.
At first, Manoj is not interested at all, but when he hears how big his share would be, he changes his mind. Tired of being nothing more than Vijay's errand man, he finally agrees to join them. The day of Vijay's daughter's wedding arrives, and everyone moves into position. Divya contacts her brother once again and asks him to send distracting photos to the security guard monitoring the cameras. The plan works perfectly. The guard leaves his post and Divya wastes no time. She deletes the footage and shuts down every security camera. At the same time, Jasmine and Manoj work together to get their hands on Vijay's room access card. Using her pickpocketing skills, Jasmine quickly steals Vijay's wallet. But when she checks it, the card is not inside. They try again, stay patient, and eventually succeed in taking the correct access card. They enter Vijay's room and immediately search for the gold. They check drawers and storage spaces until they spot the suitcase that Vijay's men were carrying earlier. Without hesitation, they open it, only to freeze in disbelief. The gold is gone. Divya refuses to give up and searches every corner, convinced it must still be there. Geeta, on the other hand, feels defeated, believing all their effort has been for nothing. Suddenly, Vijay's daughter walks into the room. Instinctively, they hide. The tension is unbearable as she senses movement under the table. Luckily, she does not discover them. The moment feels endless, but once it is safe, they slip out of the room as quickly as possible. Divya and Geeta are crushed. Everything feels lost, but Jasmine refuses to accept defeat. She learns that the next day, Vijay and his family will be traveling by private jet, bringing all the gold with them. That information changes everything. The following day, Jasmine contacts an airport staff member and manages to stop the 2 flight attendants assigned to Vijay's private jet. She takes their business cards, edits the photos, and just like that, the 3 of them successfully pose as flight attendants for the private jet. Hope returns. They are closer than ever to the gold. Geeta slips sleeping pills into every passenger's drink.
So unfair.
But Jasmine grows irritated when Vijay's daughter keeps asking for more drinks. Even after everyone else falls asleep, she remains awake, despite the pills already mixed in.
Too oily. Too green. Too watery. Too orangey.
Once all the passengers are finally unconscious, Jasmine and Geeta quietly head to the luggage compartment to search for the suitcases. They find them at last, packed with gold bars, far more than they expected. But suddenly, Vijay's daughter wakes up and catches them in the act. She tries to wake her father, but the dose of sleeping pills is so strong that he does not respond, even when water is poured on him. With everything on the line, Jasmine and Geeta restrain Vijay's daughter. It is not easy, but they manage to tie her up. As they look at the gold in front of them, excitement takes over. They believe that in just a short time, they are about to become incredibly wealthy. Not long after, Vijay's daughter manages to contact the pilot and report that the flight attendants have hijacked the plane. But her effort goes nowhere, because the pilot of the private jet is none other than Divya herself. To understand how they set this up, the story jumps back to the night before the heist. The original pilot of Vijay's jet turns out to be someone Geeta already knows well, and he even has feelings for her. Despite feeling uncomfortable and disgusted, Geeta swallows her pride for the sake of the plan. She meets him for drinks and secretly slips 7 sleeping pills into his glass. Once he passes out, Geeta takes his identification and swaps him out with Divya. At first, Jasmine and Geeta are overwhelmed with joy. They believe they have finally taken revenge on Vijay and secured all of his gold. But the excitement quickly turns into panic when Divya struggles to land the plane. Jasmine tries to keep her calm, urging her to trust herself. But Divya realizes the controls are different from anything she has trained on. In a desperate moment, Geeta slaps Divya hard, forcing her to snap out of it. She makes it clear that if Divya does not land the plane, none of them will survive. That shock brings Divya back into focus. She regains her confidence and begins the landing.
मिला? मिल गया।
मैं हर मंगलवार पे शाम चाहूंगी प्लीज प्लीज शादी के चक्कर में हम सब मरने वाले हैं
Against all odds, Divya manages to bring the plane down safely. It is not a smooth stop, and there are even cows on the runway that nearly get in the way. But in the end, for the first time in her life, Divya successfully lands a plane without causing an accident. After everything they have been through, they finally succeed. They take revenge on Vijay and walk away with all of his gold. Divya also fulfills her lifelong dream by landing the aircraft at an abandoned airport near her childhood home. What no one expects is that Divya has already contacted Jaivir. He arrives to pick them up and arrest Vijay. Even though Divya, Jasmine, and Geeta have committed serious crimes, Jaivir lets them go because he also receives a share.
और लोग उन सपनों की ले ही लेते हैं।
हक ना हमेशा मिलता नहीं।
They intentionally leave behind some of the gold as evidence of Vijay's crimes. They do not forget about the other flight attendants from Kohinoor Airlines. Using part of the stolen gold, they make sure all unpaid salaries are covered. By willingly sharing the wealth, they bring relief to everyone involved. In the end, they finally find peace, free from the economic struggles that once controlled their lives. So the moral of the story is if your salary is too low, your boss is shady, and chocolate starts looking suspiciously heavy, maybe just update your resume instead of turning into an international gold smuggler.